Carlos Jimenez, he's mayor of Miami-Dade County. He wants residents to take this very seriously.
We need to get our residents to shutter their homes, get food and water for 3 days, and stay alert to what's going on.
The governor's declared a state of emergency to make sure local and state agencies are ready for the big storm, which could become a hurricane as it moves northwest off Florida's Gulf Coast. It could disrupt next week's Republican National Convention in Tampa. A mess along parts of busy Interstate 95. CBS News correspondent Jim Krasula in Greensboro, North Carolina, says sections of it have been closed because of flooding caused by heavy rain.
It was a freak storm that hardly moved for hours. Nearly a foot of rain in only 6 hours swamped an area of north-central North Carolina along Interstate 95 near the Virginia border. Many areas have been flooded along the Roanoke River and smaller creeks. Several people had to be rescued from their homes, vehicles, and businesses.
Traffic, as you'd expect, is bad. In an interview with the Associated Press, President Obama says Americans should be worried about some of Mitt Romney's stands on the issues. American University professor of communications Leonard Steinhorn.
The president was really focusing on some key messages about his opponent. One, that his opponent favors the wealthy, is a bit out of touch. Two, that he's sort of secretive. We really don't know much about this person. And another thing that's emerging is that Mitt Romney has not actively denounced some of the extremes in the Republican Party.
Mitt Romney himself, meantime, was campaigning in Ohio today.
This is a president who says one thing and can't deliver. It's finally time to get a president who can do what he actually says he'll do.
Romney says if he is elected president of the United States, he'll work hard to help women-owned businesses because he says they are an important part of the economy. This is CBS News.
And now Geico presents 30 Seconds with Maxwell the Pig.
Hey everyone, I'm Maxwell, and my life is kind of awesome because whenever Geico wants to talk about their new mobile app, they're like, hey Maxwell, you feel like coming to the studio and talking about how the app lets you manage your policy, and get roadside help and even customize it with your favorite Geico character? And I'm like, maybe. Are there going to be snacks?
Everything you love about Geico, now mobile. Download the new Geico app today.
Running a facility, chances are managing inventory isn't your favorite part of the day. Stocking and tracking, ordering and organizing. All necessary evils eating up your time. That's why Grainger's Keep Stock services help you manage your inventory more efficiently. From basic labeling and scanning to secure dispensing machines, putting you in total control. Often allowing you to buy less, making things seem, well, not so evil anymore. Contact your Grainger representative or visit Grainger.com/keepstock today. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Some Texas lawmakers are trying to block a new federal program that allows some illegal immigrants to get Social Security cards and driver's licenses.
As part of the Deferred Action Childhood Arrivals plan by the White House, which would grant certain illegal immigrants deferred deportation and also give them a work permit along with a temporary Social Security card, those immigrants should be able to get a Texas driver's license. But if that happens, State Representative Debbie Riddle says she plans to call for a special legislative session to stop it.
If that's the case, I think that most Texans are going to object to that.
Immigrant rights activists disagree with Riddle, though, and say that illegal immigrants who've been granted a deferment have proven themselves to be responsible, law-abiding citizens and should be given equal rights. Joe Gomez, CBS News, Dallas.
Another look at our top story. Goodbye to the first man on the moon. Astronaut Neil Armstrong has died at age 82. He had heart trouble. NASA Administrator Charles Bolden says as long as there are history books, Neil Armstrong will be included in them. He calls him one of America's greatest explorers. Sam Litzinger, CBS News.
Listen up, everybody. This is Flo with a Progressive Insurance Alert. Don't even try to change that channel. I'm on all of them. So, you already know Snapshot rewards our customers for their good driving. Well, now anyone can test drive Snapshot for free, even if you have insurance with another company. See how much you could save before you switch your insurance. Also, I'm offering kazoo lessons on Saturdays.
Test drive Snapshot today. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in all states.
Look out in the street there. You know what you don't see? My car. Because I had to sell it to pay the lawyer I hired when I got busted for drunk driving. Know what else you don't see? My girlfriend, who decided that a guy with no car and no license and no money was no fun.
Cops are out there cracking down on drunk driving all across the country, and they'll see you before you see them. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
KWFM, South Tucson. The views of this program are not necessarily those of KWFM, its management, or its sponsors. The host is solely responsible for the content.
On a mission given to me by Woody Shaw, Sunship, Dizzy, and Billy Higgins, dedicated to pursuing a piece of our cultural heritage through interviews with my jazz heroes, this is the Jake Feinberg Show. Welcome, everybody, inside the studios of KWFM 1330 The Star. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, and we're happy to have you all along with us. Transitions are part of life. You move in and out of collaborations with artists, lovers, and job opportunities. But the genesis of transition stems from the beginning. The fruitful years of hearing new sounds and adding your own accent. The roots of creativity, work ethic, and brotherhood. Part of the goal of the Jake Feinberg Show is to reconnect those who played together in the beginning with a shared conception. The idea of being dedicated to their instruments and holding obligation to nothing else. But through these transitions and opportunities, these individuals have not connected on any level for some time. A state of being at the same time. It's an honor to first welcome Carl Burnett to the Jake Feinberg Show. Welcome, Carl.
Hey, how you doing, Jake?
I'm doing well, my friend, and I also would like to introduce Roy Ayers to the Jake Feinberg Show. Roy, welcome.
Hello.
So, you two...
you have Roy on the other line?
Roy and Carl Burnett reconnected.
How you doing, my brother? This is Roy. Hello? Hello, Roy.
Yeah, can you hear me? I heard you. It's fading. It seems to be fading.
All right, I'll wait until I see
the volume. I can hear everybody, but it seems to be very low.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to. This is a very unique thing. It's not something that I've ever done before, but I really wanted to let you guys, just say greetings to each other because it has been a long time since Jefferson High School.
Oh man.
Right, Carl, you sound great, man.
So do you, man. I can just barely hear you, but...
Well, I'm 71 now.
Huh?
I'm 71 now.
Well, so am I.
My birthday comes up September 10th.
Yeah, same.
How old are you, Carl?
71.
71. Yeah, we went to high school together.
That's right. Junior high school.
I haven't seen you since 1958.
No, I saw you since then. In fact, we spent a little time together in New York.
I haven't seen you, and talked to you since that time. If we saw each other, maybe it was on a gig or something.
Well, you remember I came through New York at one point. You was with Herbie Mann, and I went and we had a chance to hang out a couple of days.
Yeah, and when you came to New York, you saw me then?
Yeah.
That's how bad it is, Carl. It's so many years that I even forgot about that.
It's been so much time in between, man. But it's good to hear your voice, my brother.
Hey, it's good to hear your voice. You sound great.
You too.
And you're still playing music like me?
Well, I got away from it for a while, and now I'm just getting back to it. So
right, you've kind of been you've been still playing drums and vibes, right?
Well, I hadn't been playing. I got involved in a lot of different things. I was a minister for about 10 years.
You were a minister?
Yeah.
A minister? You mean
I'm still dealing with that.
What religion?
Huh?
What religion were you?
Dealing with Islam. dealing with Islam.
Roy, you there?
Yeah, you were a minister?
Yes, sir. I'm still doing some teaching from time to time.
Oh, that's good.
But I'm not.
You're
I'm not
living in California.
I'm not controlling the facility like I was at one point.
Yeah. Well, I'm still performing, and I just came back from Europe. I just did a date over at a club called Ronnie Scott's in England. And
okay.
I did a concert, and I did I'm back again. I travel all the time. If there's anything that bothers me, it's just the traveling, but it's something that has to be done.
That's right.
Because it's part of the gig.
I know.
It's part of my gig that I have to do, and I deal with it. It's kind of hard because when you travel, especially go to South Africa and Japan, and do a lot of traveling, it takes a lot out of you because it's very difficult for me to sleep. Because I have to travel, and I guess the older I get, the worse it gets for me to sleep. So when I get there, I have to sleep after I get there because the hours change and everything. And I've tried to adjust to that, but the only thing that bothers me is the lack of sleep that bothers me.
Right. Now I traveled for about 40 years, and they're trying to get me to come back to Europe and do some things. It seems that a lot of the recordings that were done that originally were concerts, they're now have become CDs, and they're trying to get me to come to Europe at the end of the year.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So
can I get a word in here, by the way?
Sure.
I just want to talk to you guys for a second. Hey, Carl, I want to open the question to both of you guys, but I'll start with you. When I talked to Roy, I did an interview with Roy off the air, and he talked about when you guys were in Jefferson High School together. You and him shared a certain seriousness and about your playing, and I was hoping you could talk about what it was that you guys were. I remember you told me about it, but the drive and the focus and how it actually became something a lot larger than just. It was about perfecting your craft. Could you talk a little bit about, as best you can, what you guys were feeling and what separated you from other guys that you were playing with at that time?
Well, I think that we became involved with starting with a teacher at Jefferson High School by the name of Sam Brown. And after finding out about his history with teaching musicians, that by the time we got there and met him, those musicians had become world-class musicians and traveling all over and everywhere. It let us know that we had an opportunity to do possibly the same things that they had done. So it just made us aware of the fact that the work had to be done in order to perfect what we were trying to do. We were dealing with things that we loved. We had fallen in love with playing music, and we were enjoying it and hearing other things, but I don't think we became aware of the kind of proficiency it needed until after we met Sam Brown.
Roy, do you agree with that? Mr. Ayers?
I'm sorry.
I mean, talk a little bit about
the last thing you just said.
Talk about what Carl just said as far as the seriousness that you guys went about your musicianship, because you were very clear that you used to basically say to certain guys if they weren't very serious, you would just fire them immediately.
Oh well, the music curriculum that existed at Jefferson High School was really a fantastic thing for us to have Sam Brown, who was probably one of the greatest musicians and teachers that we ever met. He was an inspiration. As a matter of fact, I asked him before I left the school who I should get to continue to teach me music, and he told me, teach yourself, Ayers. And I have continued to try to do so. But I found I get my effort to learn more about music, that I've learned more from other musicians than anyone else. You know, people like, you know, Herbie Hancock and George Benson and, you know, Herbie Mann and different individuals whom I work with over the years. And they have been the best teachers. And I have developed continuously on my instrument, and my knowledge has grown quite a bit from doing that. And I've learned a lot. And there's still a lot more to learn, but I've learned a lot about life, and I guess more than anything else, other than the music, which is number one in my brain, politics is there, and I'm I guess to some degree very dissatisfied with the political climate that I'm seeing and experiencing, especially in watching what's happening here in the United States with President Obama and all of the things that are transpiring. So it is affecting me, and I know it probably will and does affect all Americans that care about the country. So it's just that there's so many other things that start to enter into my mind with reference to survival. You know, I have a granddaughter now. I didn't have any grandchildren, but my son, Mtume, had a granddaughter, and you know, she's like 3 years old now. But it's so things change as you get older, and I guess I'm just adjusting to that.
Carl, can you? I mean, I think Roy he didn't specifically spell things out, but what is it about this time that is so cynical and
cynical?
Yeah, I mean, in the political structure, and what we've talked about before, as opposed to when you guys were growing up. I guess when you saw, you saw your own people, African Americans, making progress through civil rights, but also just sort of the racism was more overt, as opposed to today, when you can actually, through legalese, through like parsing words, you can block progressive movements when in fact it's veiled racism. I think we have not. I think the election of Barack Obama was a historic moment, but I think it also has revealed how little we've actually progressed as a society. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, you're really talking about two different things. The things that have taken place with Barack Obama, I don't think that has had as much to do with music as the lifestyle that has presented itself along the way. There's always been a climate in creative music that was a little bit free of the political structure in the United States, I believe, and possibly in the world, because it was something that people went to free themselves from a lot of the worldly stress. We, as musicians, were able to stay involved with something, which was the creativity and the dealing with the music that people came to get away from the worldly stress. So a lot of the things that took place politically, we dealt with on one level, but not a wholehearted level that a lot of people had to because of maybe what they did in their life.
Interesting.
You know, a lot of people dealt with things that had to do with the work that they did, the things that they were involved with, and some of the things that they were involved with had a lot to do with the political structure than others. We're always faced with situations. There are certain places where you didn't want to go to play because of the atmosphere that presented itself. But at the same time, there were still places that maybe we wouldn't want to go to because we didn't feel as comfortable about the creative nature of whatever it was. It still was separate from the politics. It was separate from the politics that was taking place at the time. So we had to look at what it was we were trying to do. The music allowed us the opportunity to try to fully express the feelings that we had because of the creativity that was involved. And it happened to be at a time where the music we were trying to play was ease for the people who needed it.
Mm-hmm.
People came to the music because they needed to get away from the insanity, in some cases, that was taking place in our society around us.
I guess I go back to the conversation I had with Roy off the air, which involved Cal Jader's original band, or the band that I guess Roy and you probably saw him in originally, which was Mongo Santa Maria, Willie Bobo, Al McKibben, Lonnie Hewitt, and Cal Jader. That was a mixed race band. Okay, and they, the authority, like you said, the passion and the energy of that music transcended anything else. And so
it took us over.
It did, but it also took. What I'm saying is, it also allowed those who were not performing, but actually receptively taking the music in, to actually progress. I mean, there's no doubt that you guys were going crazy over that music, but also the audience was feeling it too. They were doing the mambo and the cha cha cha.
That's the thing. See, it brought dance. It put people on the floor and got them involved with dance. It got them involved with music. There were people who were trying to play things who never tried to play anything before.
That's right. Exactly.
You know?
Yes.
So all of those things were devoid of politics. Those things were devoid of politics. I mean, after you left there, who knows what people got involved with. But as long as you were there and you were dealing with that, you were either dancing or playing or listening and patting your feet and enjoying everything that was taking place at the time.
Roy, could you?
Yeah, it's changed considerably. The music scene and the record companies have cut back a lot, and they're changing their approach to presenting music, and rap and hip hop is very strong, and it's just to some degree it's phasing out all different styles of music. Except that I do see whereas country and western music and popular music is still on the radio bands, but they're phasing out the jazz stations across the country and all over the world. They're being phased out. So I see a lot of change taking place, and it seems to be organized by, I guess, several groups of people, like Clear Channel and other people, and they're facing a lot of people who should be being played right now. But unfortunately, because the record companies have cut a lot of people, and a lot of people that I know and Carl knows, people like Ronnie Laws and Lonnie Liston Smith, and Tom Brown, and Bobby Humphrey, and Gene Corn, and and the list goes on a lot. And several people have passed away, like Stanley Turrentine and George Howard and Grover Washington Jr. and a fellow Jeffersonian high school mate, Barry, the singer. What's his name? I can't think of his name.
O.C. Smith?
Barry. Richard
Barry?
The singer.
O.C. Smith, Richard Barry?
Barry White.
Barry White.
Yeah, Barry White.
Yeah,
You know
I
what?
couldn't think of it.
Barry White went to Manual.
Passed away. And a lot of other people, Jeffersonian and also Etta James. She went to Jeff.
Yeah.
Did you know that, Carl?
Yeah.
I mean, Etta was ahead of us. Etta and Barry both were ahead of us. But they went to Jeff. You know that?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's interesting. But I see a lot of phasing out. Fortunately, because of airplay and record sales, I work pretty consistently, and I guess I'm very fortunate to do that because I've had a lot of records. I've done 86 albums and or CDs, so I'm very fortunate. But the thing that I really don't appreciate is the phasing out that they've done. The record companies have cut back and cut off almost all artists, including people like Earth, Wind and Fire and Cameo. You could just name all the different style groups that have been phased out. This is horrible. It's horrible because these musicians are around my age and they're at the peak of their performance. And fortunately, musicians generally don't retire. And this is something that should be talked about, and I'm glad that we're taking the time to even speak. I'm glad to be talking to you, Carl. Yeah. But these are things that are important because if it happens now, then it can happen later on to other musicians. So it's something that should be spoken about, and nobody speaks about it.
Right.
Before we go to a break here, I didn't know how this was going to work, but it's exactly the way I wanted it to, because while guys like Louis Armstrong, the Bird, Coltrane, Blakey, those guys are considered the legends, and they're gone. They're past now. But your generation's legacy is not just longevity. It's not just the blending of all different styles. It's the idea that you guys need to come into the forum and be more vocal, or I don't know what the right word is, but I think that these kinds of discussions are ways of moving the ball forward insofar as getting not stratifying music so much. I don't expect to be able to break the corporate stranglehold, but stratification and labels have really hurt music in general, and that was not something.
When you say the corporate stronghold, what did you say?
Well, you know what? We're going to get into this. We're going to go to a hard break, go to a news break, guys. We're going to come back. We'll play some music, talk about you guys doing the Hawaiian guitar and the vibes and switching it at different high schools, and a whole lot more. We're joined here by Carl Burnett and Roy Ayers. Sit tight, guys. We'll come back on the other side, okay?
This is the Jake Feinberg
Okay.
Show. We'll be right back.
That's good.
NBC News Radio, I'm Melissa Rayberger. Astronaut Neil Armstrong has died. His family says the pioneering astronaut died of complications from a recent heart surgery. NBC's Brian Williams links the death with the current U.S. space program.
Neil Armstrong's death coincides with the death of our manned space program. We now need the Russians to get a ride to space. It was the Russians we were fighting tooth and nail to get to the moon, to get to space. Sadly, that era died, and now one of the lions of aviation and space exploration has died as well.
Florida's Governor Rick Scott has declared a state of emergency in advance of Tropical Storm Isaac, which could make landfall in the Sunshine State on Monday. The state has stepped up information about Isaac to the city of Tampa, Florida, where the Republican National Convention opens on Monday. Any storm surges or bridge closures will be made known quickly. Tampa Airport remained open today. This is NBC News Radio.
And now Geico presents 30 Seconds with Maxwell the Pig.
Hey everyone, I'm Maxwell, and my life is kind of awesome because whenever Geico wants to talk about their new mobile app, they're like, hey Maxwell, you feel like coming to the studio and talking about how the app lets you manage your policy, you know, and get roadside help and even customize it with your favorite Geico character. And I'm like, maybe. Are there going to be snacks?
Everything you love about Geico, now mobile. Download the new Geico app today.
Running a facility, chances are managing inventory isn't your favorite part of the day. Stocking and tracking, ordering and organizing. All necessary evils eating up your time. That's why Grainger's Keep Stock services help you manage your inventory more efficiently. From basic labeling and scanning to secure dispensing machines, putting you in total control. Often allowing you to buy less, making things seem, well, not so evil anymore. Contact your Grainger representative or visit Grainger.com/keepstock today. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Listen up, everybody. This is Flo with a Progressive Insurance Alert. Don't even try to change that channel. I'm on all of them. So, you already know Snapshot rewards our customers for their good driving. Well, now anyone can test drive Snapshot for free, even if you have insurance with another company. See how much you could save before you switch your insurance. Also, I'm offering kazoo lessons on Saturdays.
Test drive Snapshot today. Visit progressive.com/snapshot. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in all states.
Look out in the street there. You know what you don't see? My car. Because I had to sell it to pay the lawyer I hired when I got busted for drunk driving. Know what else you don't see? My girlfriend, who decided that a guy with no car and no license and no money was no fun.
Cops are out there cracking down on drunk driving all across the country, and they'll see you before you see them. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
It's that good.
Step backwards to 1970, we have vintage receivers, turntables, speakers, and tape decks for sale with full warranty at reasonable prices. For service on and sales of stereo equipment of all kinds, the in-crowd meets at 4044 East Speedway inside Metronome Music. You can confirm our hours of operation and phone at stereohospital.com, where the misbehaving and misbegotten are rendered civilized and attractive if humanly possible.
Folks, this is Jake Feinberg. When it came time to decide where to buy my daughter a piano last year, the choice was easy. We got it at Hackenberg & Sons Piano Company. Located at 4333 East Broadway Boulevard, Hackenberg & Sons is Tucson's longest-running family-owned piano business. Run by three brothers and a son, they pride themselves on superior instruments and customer satisfaction. It's why they've been around so long. And it's why their pianos are used at the University of Arizona, Pima Community College, and many other prestigious institutions. So whether it's for your child, business, or yourself, when you buy a piano, make sure you go to Hackenberg & Sons. It'll be the beginning of a long-lasting partnership. For more information, visit them at hackenbergpiano.com. The 8th Annual Tucson Record Show is Sunday, November 11th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Las Casulitas Events Center, 1365 West Grant Road, just west of I-10. Admission is $4. Dealer tables are $35 in advance and $40 the week of the show. Last year, all the tables sold out, and I can attest I picked up some incredible Cal Jader records. Contact Bruce Smith at 520-622-0104 or at Cassidy Collectibles at earthlink.net, records, CDs, and music memorabilia. The 8th Annual Tucson Record Show, Sunday, November 11th at the Las Casulitas Event Center. Be there. In this day and age, people have a lot to protect. You want to know that when you're insuring valuable goods, you have an agent you can trust. Craig Pretzinger is that agent. For auto, home, and life insurance, the Pretzinger Agency is Tucson's most honest and flexible insurance company. Have off-road vehicles or motorhomes? Pretzinger can cover that as well. Pretzinger Agency at 299-5810, located across the street from Sullivan's Steakhouse on the southwest corner of River and Campbell. Trust, compassion, and service. The whole package at Pretzinger Agency. Call 299-5810 or text quote to 520-582-5150. 520-582-5150. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Be a part of a new coalition with Jake Feinberg. The second half of my show starts right now. Absolutely no problems today, as I'm joined by two ferocious intellectuals and musicians, Hall of Famers, going to Cooperstown, or actually Cleveland. I guess that's where the Music Hall of Fame is. Carl Burnett, drummer, Roy Ayers, vibist. Welcome back, guys.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going off on my soapbox, Carl, but the point is, there were the ideals and the values of corporate America, and specifically the music industry, has stratified everything so that, and labels as well, have really taken, have hurt what Roy's talking about, the opportunity for younger musicians to get their sound out. And I just wanted to talk to you about, I know you have been involved with this for years, whether it's music workshops, educating people on, unions and how to advocate for themselves. And I want to talk to you about how you feel about this current situation that we're in musically, and what you are continuing to do to sort of help those younger people.
Well, the current situation right now is bad for musicians because there's no way to get exposure because of the companies cutting off. Most of the musicians are at at the high level of their entertainment career. There's so many, and they have no way of outlet because the radio stations are now being channeled to play other formats, and also the record companies are not releasing records and promoting records like they have been doing since Louis Armstrong and everybody else, and so it's a complete change. And the corporate structure, the people that are working in the corporate structure, they aren't about music and creativity. They're about bucks and money. And that's why I guess the corporate structure has many people in the corporate structure now are even presenting hip-hop and rap music because of its popularity. And I understand that. And I know that I have sampled more, probably I have more sampled hits than anyone in the industry. But my point is that musicians are being ignored. And musicians have put their time into the music, into the instruments, and it's unfortunate because there's something that has to be done. There's no way to get their records played if they're recording, and of course if they're not assigned to the record contracts and have the promotional monies that the major companies have. They can't even promote their records, and they have no radio stations to play them on throughout the country, and so it's a bad scene for a lot of musicians.
Carl, can I get your feedback on this?
I really agree with what he's saying. This is true. This is what's happening now.
Right.
What I tried to do at one point was make musicians aware of what was happening with this, and try to establish a facility where the musicians had more control of the properties that we were producing.
Exactly.
We didn't come together because somehow there tended to be too much submission to the way that the record companies were handling things and doing things. We never took
our and we had no control at all, unfortunately, because we were, the musicians, we were dedicated to music and playing music. And the record companies had their control, and they did everything. They controlled everything, including the money. And unfortunately, I mean, the musicians never did control the money. They controlled the publishing. They controlled everything, and they got everything for the most part. The musicians got very little, especially all the ones that have passed away. That's right.
Yeah, but we didn't.
And so it's unfortunate. So Jay, what you really talking about is an industry that has been excluded. Has been canceled. Especially the jazz musicians, there's nothing. There's nothing, no outlets. So, like what Carl just said, we have to, I guess, get the musicians together and get more musicians to get their own internet access and press their own records and do it themselves. Don't ask these record companies for a hand because they're not there to help them anymore.
Carl, can you?
It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is.
Carl, can you talk about, because I know you were working.
Well, see, this is one of the things that the rap artists did in order to establish themselves. They did it themselves. This is what we didn't come up dealing with things in that way, so it wasn't something that we considered. But the thing that bothered me the most when I could see it coming, I tried to address it when I had Artworks 4, artistic facility in L.A., and I tried to teach and train young people and teach them the business and make them aware of what was happening with the business, because you could see that the stations had submitted to the record companies because they changed their whole entity, whereas at one point you could hear a record on the radio, a jazz record on the radio, that was a top-selling record by everybody's demonstration because of it being a hit. And they told you everybody that was on that record, so that the people on the record had an opportunity to eventually maybe get a leadership themselves.
Right.
But the record station, the stations even got the disc jockeys to stop saying who was on the record with them, so the guys had a harder time trying to establish themselves. That broke everything down so that everything was on the leader. All the pressure was on the leader for everything. And they put it in a way that the leaders couldn't do anything but try to work and take care of the business of all of the people that they were responsible for. They were responsible for the people that were in the band. They had to make sure that they were taken care of, to make sure that everything worked so that the music would work.
Can you guys, let me start, either one of you can take this, but I wonder if it's back in the 60s, when you guys are in your formative years, I look at the leadership amongst what Carl was just referring to, the leaders, Gerald Wilson, Cal Jader, Dizzy Gillespie, and the list goes on. So even, to the idea that, like, I discover Roy Ayers. Roy Ayers is credited on a Gerald Wilson big band album. Carl Burnett is credited on a Blue Note album with Gene Harris live at the IT Club. I mean, there was exposure. There seemed to be this sort of chronological process where it said you cut your teeth, you work on your chops, and eventually you get your own time. And that all of a sudden just went, you got sucked into a vacuum. And so I just would like to take this time, before we leave. We have plenty of time here, but I just wanted to play a little bit of music, lighten the mood a little bit here. First thing, we're going to hear a clip. This is after Carl and Roy had gone their separate ways. I think it's around 1973. Carl can fill us in. Let's listen to the track, and we'll come back and talk. When the last time you heard that, but that was Baby Man.
It's been a long time.
Talk a little bit about that. It's so great, Carl, because I've been listening to a lot of the Gene Harris Three Sounds with you and the Skipper, and you and Gene had you guys were all totally in lockstep, but I can hear Gene playing a solo and maybe ready to wrap it up, and you egging him on, and it's back and forth. You can hear that. Yeah,
that's true. But you can hear it because that was his concept of playing. That was Gene's concept of playing. He was a turnaround expert. But
can you talk
one
about
of the things that you got to remember, that was at a time when it was still the Three Sounds. It didn't become Gene Harris and the Three Sounds until later. At that point, it was the Three Sounds. So everybody got some play. But when it became the Gene Harris and the Three Sounds, only Gene Harris got play. The sidemen didn't get play.
That was a decision made at a higher level?
Yeah, United Artists.
Yeah, Gene Harris. Gene wouldn't have made a decision like that.
Well, no, Gene wouldn't have done it. He didn't do it. But you see, it changed over. He ended up having a stroke, and we kind of broke up the band. And when he got better, he came back and he started playing again, and then he did it as Gene Harris and the Three Sounds.
Yeah, I remember you telling me a really pretty emotional story about him. You guys, it was off the Soul Symphony album, and you guys made that. you made a cut. It was one of the top hits on Blue Note, and Gene went back to the record company and said, hey, we're doing it. We need some more money to make another album. And they said, no, we're done doing that kind of stuff. And
the album was number 3.
That album was number 3, and they said there's no money for it. And you said it broke his heart, and he really kind of, not too soon after that, his health kind of failed a little bit.
Right.
Carl Burnett is by the way, Carl, I don't know if Roy lost his cell phone battery. He's down in Philadelphia. We lost him on the air, so it's just me and you. But Carl Burnett, a profound drummer, grew up in Los Angeles area, and really has had a tremendous career. Cal Jader spent a while with Cal Jader, spent a long time with Gene Harris and the skipper Henry Franklin, the Three Sounds. Was the drummer for Freddie Hubbard in the mid-'70s, and obviously was also Art Pepper's drummer for quite a while. He did a number of albums on his own. There's another track I wanted to play right now that just shows off Carl just snapping it. So let's just take a listen, and then we'll come back, okay?
All right.
And we're waiting to get the right track in there. That actually was a track for Roy. But, Carl, why don't you talk a little bit about, your upbringing and when you went from Arkansas to Los Angeles? And
well, it's not much to tell about that because I was about 2 years old when I came from Arkansas to Los Angeles. My mom and I was still baby. So I grew up in L.A.
And talk about your neighborhood and the sounds that were coming out from that time.
Well, in growing up, I lived in the projects in Los Angeles, and at one point, my father bought a big record player, and the kind that had a 78s on the bottom and 45s in the middle and a TV on the other side. And with that set came a musical contract in a sense. It was 3 albums that came with it. It was a record club. And those 3 records are what got me involved with jazz music. One of them was Miles Davis, Birth of the Cool. The other one was Modern Jazz Quartet. And the last of the 3 was Dizzy Gillespie Town Hall concert in Carnegie Hall with the orchestra.
Yeah, and there was actually some Latin percussion in that one as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, that's great.
So I had a chance to start with that. And after I really started enjoying it, I found a radio station that was live from the lighthouse on Most of the Beach. Came on I'm not sure if it was every night or 1 or 2 nights during the week. And I started listening to that. And eventually it provided an opportunity for me to begin to do some other kind of playing other than the playing that Roy and I were doing, because we had started playing at that point. So I had an opportunity to get into a wider range of musical experiences. At the point that I started going to the Lighthouse, I was still playing vibraphone, and I was able to win Most Promising Young Musician, and I was playing vibraphone at the time. But shortly thereafter, I had gone back to drums. But that was, what got me started and involved with music, along with playing with other people that I knew, like Henry Franklin, and a host of other musicians that I played with. And during that time, also, Roy was still and around at that point, and we were all doing the same kinds of things. But the atmosphere and the things that we were doing are much like the same things that happened with the Society of Rap Music. It grew from the people who were listening to it and enjoying it. And we had a host of people. Once people found out where we were and what we were doing, the more we played out in public, the more people came to what we were doing, because there were a couple of radio stations that were playing the music, and people came to it. So we had a lot of help in dealing with the music at the time, because it was almost like having a head start by knowing all of the musicians that had come out of Jefferson High School that we had heard about, and taking pride in the knowledge of being at the school and knowing the person who was responsible for it, even though he never really taught us physically. But he gave us a lot of information to make us do it on our own. And that's what we ended up doing.
Can you, in our remaining moments here, can you talk a little bit about, you've mentioned to me before about going to, at the end of the year, going over to Italy, is it? To do...
At the end of the year is a possibility. I may go back and do it. There's some people that's starting a group called the Pepper Legacy. And they're trying to get George Cables and David Williams and myself to come over. We were one of the groups that has been prominently displayed on CDs that have been put out by Art's wife on a label called Taste of... Oh, man.
It is all you need to say is George Cables, David Williams, Carl Burnett. But there's a cat over in Italy. He's a pretty good horn player.
Uh-huh.
And the idea there is when you say it's talk a little bit about in the final minutes here your relationship with Art Pepper, your musical relationship and your personal relationship.
The musical relationship was good because it provided a format for me to really express my feelings about music and deal with how far I can go with the music that I was playing. It gave me an opportunity to do it. So, and it's being, fortunately, there are at least 8 CDs that have been released that are from the 80s. And they've just been released. One of them just been released from Japan. I think Friday.
Wow.
It was released. And I understand there's some more to come next year. But these CDs are really, really some good music, man. I was really surprised and happy to hear that they're providing them to the public. Because doing a concert, you go and you play something and you demonstrate to the best of your ability what you're doing, and when it's over, it's over. When you record something, you go in the studio and you try to do the best you can with it because it's for posterity. But the thing is, there's still something lacking, even though you try to perfect what it is that you're doing.
Hey, Carl, listen, we're going to go to a break, come back. How about another 5-10 minutes when we come back, okay?
Okay.
All right,
okay.
We'll be back in just a little bit on the Jake Feinberg Show.
Okay.
CBS News, I'm Sam Litzinger. Officials are urging vacationers to leave the Florida Keys as Tropical Storm Isaac heads their way. It's expected to hit the area by Monday morning, possibly as a hurricane. CBS News correspondent Peter King joins us live from Tampa with some late-breaking news about the GOP convention.
Republican National Committee Chair Reince Priebus.
So, Carl, I didn't want to rush you through that. Continue on with your thought.
An hour, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Burnett.
Yes.
Continue on. Go ahead. Continue talking about your the importance of this music.
Well, I was talking about, when you go in the studio and you record something, you try to perfect it to the best of your ability. But your focus is on the perfection of what it is that you're doing. When you're doing a concert, you're dealing with the perfection of what you're doing, but also the enjoyment in doing it. And that comes through the music when you're doing a concert. That doesn't necessarily come through in the studio. And these CDs that have been released demonstrates a lot of those situations. This last one that was from Japan that just was released last week, it's one of those examples where not only did we feel inspired by what we did, but the audience showed us that they felt the same way. These kinds of things used to happen in the nightclubs in the United States before the concerts took over. When we were playing in small clubs, that was the energy that was presented. This was the energy that brought people to this music.
But like you said, we've had this discussion before, and you've articulated it very well. The idea of these rock palaces, people getting farther and farther away from the instrumentalists and,
right.
and the artists, and so it's less intimate. But at the same time, Carl, you'd be the first to say that you guys, when you were playing with Gene, there were many nights in those swampy bars you were playing in front of 3 people.
That's true too. That's true too.
You know, but I mean, it's a give and take.
That was I don't know how much time we got really, but one of the funniest examples for me was one time we played at a hotel in Rochester, New York, and it was one of those times when it was a record-breaking snow and cold happening.
Right.
We're in the bar, only people in the bar. One guy came in, sat there all night. At the end of the evening, he came over to me, and we started talking. He said, "You guys like this music you're playing?" So we said, "Yeah, we love it. That's why we're out here doing it." So he said, "Man, there's nobody in here." So I said, "Man, it's record cold and snowfall outside. People don't want to go nowhere in this kind of weather." He said, "Man, if you were playing marching music, John Philip Sousa music,
right,
you'd have people in here marching around this club, bumping into each other, because there would be so many people in here." And it made me realize that, man, there's people out here that love all kinds of music.
Right.
It just takes situations that makes one successful or maybe one not successful. But all of them have a place, and there's a time for each. Now, I'm not sure if I'm saying a lot of the jazz things are past their time, but the way that we're presenting it is going to have to change. And this is where the musicians are going to have to come together.
That's, Carl, I have to be honest. I mean, we're going to have to do another, at least another hour together, solo. I felt today, I had an opening here, and I said, I've been, whether or not Carl and Roy ever decide to connect themselves, I'm going to do it today. And I know it probably, I didn't tell you in advance, but I hope if nothing else, it can bring you guys back together too. Like you said, it's about the musicians coming together and figuring out a way to maybe change certain things, but it's going to be done by those who actually experienced it before, because it's your life experience. It's like what we talked about, the Nancy Wilson, the Tuxedo, with Monk Montgomery, okay, Freddie Hubbard yelling at the crowd in Houston with a Crusaders concert, all this stuff. You lived that. That's where your soul came from. And as far as I'm concerned, you're the passers of the torch. So I love you, my friend, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time today.
Well, I thank you for taking the time to put this on so that people can have an idea of some of the things that is taking place and what exists with the music and the musicians that are doing it. Really thank you for bringing Roy on, because, believe it or not, it's been so many years since we've talked.
Apparently
we
so.
haven't seen each other.
Apparently so. Herbie Mann in '68. That's a long time.
Man, the only time I've seen Roy, other than that New York experience, which was I don't know how long ago, was we bumped into each other in the airport a couple of times. Neither one of us having time to really talk, but we grew up together.
I know. And I think after today, it makes more sense for you guys to reach out and begin at least communicating again, because it sounds to me like, actually, I haven't heard Roy that fired up in a long time. It was good to hear him like that. So,
well, that's good, man.
Yeah.
It's good to hear his voice, man.
Hey, CB.
I look forward to seeing his smiling face.
I'll talk to you soon, my brother.
Take care, man.
All right, now. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll see you next week.
Okay.